Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're a soldier posted on the front with Pakistan or China, you expect enemy fire. It's what you signed up for. You're trained for it at the military academy. But when an 18-year-old enters a medical school, he or she are trained to save lives. They aren't trained to save themselves because a hospital is not a war zone and patients are not enemies. But often enough in the last 5 years, we have seen doctors, young and old, being treated like not the saviors that they are, but like enemies. They have been assaulted, they have been attacked, they have been abused, they have been stabbed, they have been murdered in the line of duty. See the pictures on your screens. A doctor in Guwahati being beaten up mercilessly by a patient's family after the patient dies of COVID. In Maharashtra, in Jammu, in Calcutta, the story repeats itself. Doctors are accused of negligence by families and thrashed up without mercy. And all of this happened at a time when doctors had put themselves in the line of duty and come to work every day as the world stayed at home during COVID. They were risking not just themselves, but they were risking their entire families. And many had children and parents at home. Often enough, doctors come out. They will protest. They will ask for stricter laws. And they are largely ignored till a doctor dies. And a young doctor did die. She was murdered, actually. She was 23. She was just starting her professional life. She was stabbed 11 times with a surgical scissor by a prisoner patient she was treating. The policemen who were supposed to protect her abandoned her and fled. Dr. Vandana Das, wounded and bleeding, died in the hospital where she had served. For the last many days in Kerala, we have seen protests and strikes by doctors. A shocked Kerala High Court told the government, if you can't protect doctors, just shut down hospitals. Today, that pressure has worked. The Kerala government has passed the Hospital Protection Act Amendment Ordinance. Essentially, the existing law protecting medical workers has been tightened. Now, after the governor's approval, this is what the law will look like. A, anyone committing an act of violence against doctors or any healthcare worker will be sent to jail for 6 months to 5 years. This will also include a fine ranging from 50,000 rupees to 2 lakh rupees. Anyone grievously injuring a healthcare worker will be jailed for 1 to 7 years. The fine in this case will be up to 5 lakh rupees. Importantly, these cases cannot drag on for years on end. No tariq pe tariq. The new rules are saying that they have to be wrapped up in 60 days via fast-track courts in every district. Now, why this ordinance is also a landmark is because it brings into its ambit non-medical staff like drivers, security guards, and paramedical staff who are often in the line of fire as much as doctors. Now, just by the way, a day before this ordinance, another doctor in Kerala, this time a surgeon, was attacked by a drunk patient. In fact, 75% doctors in India, according to an IMA survey, say they have faced some sort of violence or assault at their workplace. Currently, only 19 out of 28 states and 8 union territories in India have laws protecting their doctors. But here's the problem. Although these laws do exist in these 19 states, they are either outdated and only include doctors, or they carry a very petty fine, say no more than 50,000 rupees, and the cases drag on for years on end. Now, the Indian Medical Association has been for years demanding a central law to protect doctors. But the Ministry of Home Affairs says that health is a state subject. So let states do what is necessary. Here's the point. The centre may have a point when they say that health is a state subject. But doctors are national assets. Can the centre shrug off responsibility so easily? Is there any good reason why we should not have a strong, uniform law protecting all healthcare workers across this country? I mean, politicians love to harp about a uniform civil code in this country. How about a uniform code to protect our doctors first? And if they can't do it, shouldn't states be tightening their laws to protect doctors better? I'm going across to some doctors who've spent long years in the medical profession. They know exactly what I'm talking about. Professor Sudhir Kumar is joining us. He's a senior consultant. He's a neurologist at the Institute of Neurosciences, Apollo Hospital. Thank you very much. You're joining us from Hyderabad. Dr. Swati Maheshwari joins us as well. She's an internal medicine expert. Dr. Rajeev Jayadevan is co-chairperson, National IMA Covid Task Force, and Dr. Anil Mandoo is a senior director at the Max Healthcare Institute in Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. I know this is a subject that makes all of you very emotional. I know this is a subject that is close to every doctor, because often enough we see doctors being assaulted and beaten, in some cases murdered by their patients as well. And for the rest of the country, life goes on. Dr. Sudhir Kumar, I want to ask you if what Kerala has done is something that other states need to follow as well.
Kerala definitely has made a good beginning, and at least I think the most important thing what I liked in that law was, which will become a law soon, is that the timelines, because we know that many cases have been filed earlier also, but none of the cases had any outcome where the person who committed the crime was punished. So here is a timeline of 60 days for the inspector to do the investigations, and the courts to pronounce judgment. Also there's a timeline given for of 1 year. So this is a good beginning. And so as I said, once those who are guilty are punished, it will be a big deterrent, and the doctors can do their job, what they're meant to do, that is to protect the lives of patients and not worry about their own lives.
Dr. Rajeev Jayadevan, we had last week when we were talking about this subject, when the young 23-year-old doctor in Kerala was murdered by her patient, stabbed 11 times with the surgical scissors that was lying close by. One of the questions, that came up was that it's not like we don't have laws in this country to protect our doctors. Fact is that no one takes those laws seriously. Now, I read a survey that the IMA had done of doctors in India, and 75% doctors in this country say that they have either been abused or threatened or assaulted at their workplaces. Is that a figure that you still stand by, and whether there are any anecdotal examples that you can give us on the show right now?
Absolutely. You said in the beginning, hospitals are not war zones. I think that single statement summarizes this whole session. Hospitals are war zones from now on. Our hospitals, particularly in India, tend to be crowded places. Doctors and nurses, they handle or they see more patients than they can handle, especially in emergency rooms where people under the influence of alcohol, people who've been in some sort of a physical altercation come in, and then they perpetrate their tendencies within the casualty. Today morning, you asked for an anecdote. Today morning's paper in Kerala had front page news about a man who came into casualty and threatened and assaulted a young male doctor, saying, within quotes, "I am the patient, you are the doctor, and I can hit you, I can do anything to you, nothing will happen to me." End of quote. Now, that single statement actually shows what the situation on the ground is. As Dr. Sudhir said, a law is good to have it, but unless it's implemented, it's of no value on the ground. If you look at the conviction rates in Kerala, in spite of having a Hospital Protection Act valid from 2012, the conviction rate is close to zero, and the people know that. And that's the reason why a rogue person like him showed up in the casualty and said these threatening words. He's threatening the whole system. And how can doctors work, or nurses, or other healthcare workers, or security people, or students, how can they work when they are threatened with situations like this? If you go to any casualty in the country, you will see unruly individuals come in crowds, particularly in odd hours at night, and they may be under the influence of alcohol. And this particular individual claims that he's not only taken alcohol but other substances also as a bragging point. So people are under the influence of various substances. They have scant respect for the law. And if the law does not result in conviction, it will not serve any purpose. But the new update of this act says clearly that it sets a timeline for the investigation to be completed. So that is a welcome thing.
Sure, sure. That, and maybe that is something that other states, Dr. Swati Maheshwari, need to implement as well. As I said, it's not like states in this country don't have laws to protect doctors. There are 19 states which have specific laws to protect doctors, but they are, in Hindi they say, बहुत ढीले laws हैं. Just say for example, in Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state, what is the fine? For assaulting a doctor, merely 50,000 rupees. So I can come drunk into a hospital, do what I want to, slap a doctor, walk out, pay just 50,000 rupees and go scot-free. So probably what you need, and one of the things that needs to be taken from what Kerala has done, is to ensure that there are fast-track courts which within 60 days have wrapped up the entire matter, instead of the matter dragging on for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, post which the doctor himself or herself will say, ab chhod do, rehne do, let it go.
Absolutely, Shreya. See, it's a welcome step that the Kerala government has taken, but definitely it's not the sufficient step that I would say, because the first law was enacted in 2007, and thereafter many states took it up. But if you look at it, not a single person was convicted till 2015.
Dr. Maheshwari, I think we are having some network issues. We'll try and reconnect with you. But Dr. Anil Mandoo, we had a young doctor, a resident doctor on this show a week ago, just coming in here if you can. And he said, look, ma'am, when we go to medical school, we study 19 subjects. Maybe it's time for us to study a 20th subject, martial arts, because that is now what is expected of us. That there isn't enough, there is not enough protection for us doctors. There should be more security in hospitals, given the sort of crowds and given the sort of emotional crowds that we are dealing with. That simply doesn't exist. The best way to protect ourselves is probably to learn some martial arts, some karate. This is what he said on this show. I want to ask you, I mean, maybe that was a statement made in anger, but I want to ask you, is it time for medical schools also to teach young people who are coming into the profession how to deal with patients? I'll tell you why I ask you this question. I ask you this question because Kerala's health minister had rather very controversially said that this young lady doctor, all of 23 years old, didn't know how to handle the situation.
Shreya, I think what you've said is spot on. It's not only important for us to study medicine nowadays, it's also important for us to understand not only the life skills part of it, but again, more importantly, looking at how to deal with the patient. But let's look at it at this way. The doctor who we were talking about was 23-year-old. At 23 years of age, tell me how many people in the world would actually know how to deal with people. It's only over a period of time that you start getting to understand the nitty-gritties of the system, and you look at people, you interact with people, and you start getting more information, and then you collate it, and you deal with the people like that. Having said that, I think it's probably timely for us to now start thinking on that line also, as to teach our medical students as to how to deal with the patients when they are coming across to you. I'll give you an anecdotal example of my times, 2 decades ago, more than 2 decades ago, when I was doing my internship. In my medical college, the dictum was, when you're in the emergency and if you see some kind of a problem coming up, just take your white coat off, take the apron off, shove it under the tables and run away. Imagine that's what was taught to us at that moment of time, and I'm talking about 2 decades earlier. At that time, the number of violent incidents would be hardly there. Now, looking at it today, 2 decades later, we are in a situation where almost every alternate day you have an incident, and not only in the private sector, but also in the government sector, and plenty of them. So I think teaching our younger generation of life skills, of handling these situations with a patient and dealing with them on a larger basis is also very important. And I'm sure you would be aware that there are a lot of hospitals which have now started looking at the concept of having bouncers perhaps in their own centers to take care of the people, to take care of their healthcare workers. It's not only about the doctors, it's also about the people who are the front line. You have a front desk people, you have your security staff, you have other staff available there. All of these people need to be taken care of as well, because they are the people who are facing them for the first time, and doctor comes a little in later, and then you get the brunt at the maximum. So I think there are these reasons for us to believe that we must do something to train our students at the medical school levels itself.
And you're talking about bouncers at private hospitals. I'm just thinking to myself, what happens in a government hospital where there is, if you go to a government hospital, you won't see even a basic security guard there. Forget bouncers. So I wonder what government hospitals go through. But Dr. Swati Maheshwari, you are back with us. We had lost your connection for a bit, but you were making a good point about laws existing, but conviction rates being very slow, which means that the law can exist on paper. It really doesn't make a difference to a doctor's life.
Absolutely. See, any kind of healthcare worker, how conscientious or careful he might be, he cannot say as to at what hour or what day of time, he would not be an object of an undesired attack. So we need to safeguard these healthcare workers. We need to create more safe environments. And like my panelists as well said, and you also mentioned, there are many such aspects to it. One, definitely the security deployment has to increase. We have to interlock it with the police. The local police that is there, they need to respond very fast to all such kind of calls. Also, the support staff that is there, especially because the emergencies and the ICUs are the main violence venues. We should have support staff which is trained in kind of dealing with these mobs, with these kind of violence activities, the assaults and the different kind of such brunts that these doctors face. Also, we need to have more surveillance systems, and also we need to train the doctors and the support staff that, how we need to do these mob diffusing drills. We need to do how to train them to kind of see the early indicators that this might brew into a violent situation. So all this needs to be done, and it's not just the laws, probably just saying that the law is there and this would now safeguard the healthcare workers. I don't think this will do much. Definitely, it's a deterrent, and it sends out a good signal in the society that there is zero tolerance for such kind of activities. But till the time, we take care of the other aspects, the entire holistic look at it would not be completed, and we would not be able to deliver at all. Even if you look at last 3 years, Kerala has had 200 doctor attacks without a single conviction yet. So if you look at it, there are these such incidents happening each and every day. And like the IMA report says, I think each and every doctor sitting here would vouch for it, that this is absolutely true. Every other second, third day, we see such kind of activities, be it simple verbal abuse, be it vandalism, be it assault, or be it such heinous crimes. So it has to be stopped. Just the fact that the doctors are vulnerable, their proximity to you, they are unarmed, and they are kind-hearted and empathetic doesn't mean that you can strike them whenever you want and, in whichever way you want to. There has to be something because, over the time, if doctors, would have psychological impacts of such kind of events, eventually they will be reluctant to kind of handle any kind of serious emergencies, and this would impact the entire healthcare delivery system. So something has to be done, not just for the doctors, definitely also for the other healthcare workers that are there, because we keep hearing such incidences with the nurses, with the paramedical staff, with the security staff that is there. So it has to be handled. It has to be looked after by the government as well. And also, I think
Kerala has brought everyone under the ambit of their new law. Well, that's social, Dr. Sudhir, Dr. Sudhir Kumar, my last question to you. We are talking about a law, right? At one point of time, we are even talking about maybe training our doctors and the paramedical staff and health staff on how to interact with patients and their families. What we are not talking about is what we as citizens have become. That we need to be a society where you treat doctors with the kind of respect they deserve. Do you feel in your long years as a doctor that respect somehow has dwindled, because of which you're seeing instances like this? And I want to ask you, be honest, how does it make you feel every time you open the newspaper and read ki aaj bhi kuch aisa ho gaya?
Definitely, it's a very valid point. When we are growing up, in our formative years, in school years, we always respected the doctors much more. Even today, the respect is there. But I think it's a handful of people who do not give respect. And I think we are not talking about the respect only to doctors. Basically, any professional who is doing the duty, where they are saving lives, and many professions do that. So we need to respect the professional and the profession also. And it is not that as a doctor we are demanding that doctors should be respected more than other professionals. It's not like that. But at least the doctors who are doing, sometimes doctors need to
Okay.
focus, much more in their work than, let's say, a few other professions, because even a few minutes or few moments of indecisiveness or delay can hamper the patient's life. So if the doctor is concerned about saving himself, then that decision making also can get affected. So that definitely is there. So respect is something which the doctors deserve and they need to get. But it is not only special for doctors, and also as public, they should know that doctors are doing the best to make their lives better, to make them healthier, and to save their lives. And the least they can do is attack them or be violent against them. And also, if they feel,
Sure.
if anyone feels that there is negligence or some kind of duty has not been done, so already we have other laws where they can file cases and for negligence, medical negligence, and that is a separate thing. But taking the law in their
Absolutely.
own hands and harming the doctors or the other
Absolutely.
healthcare workers physically, even killing them, that is definitely not justified in any civil society.
Okay, we leave it there for the moment. Doctors, it was good to hear from you. More importantly, it was important to hear from all of you. Thank you very much, Professor Sudhir Kumar, for joining us on this broadcast. Thank you, Dr. Swati Maheshwari, for being with us. Dr. Rajeev Jayadevan, thank you very much. And Dr. Anil Mandoo, thank you very much as well.